Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Horsemanship Remark Show. Here's the poll. Should I just get started many minutes early? Let's see. Please tell me I'm correct. Otherwise, I am not sure. Yeah. Are we there? We're there, right? I think so. Oh my gosh. But I'm so nervous, Michael, about touching the screen here. Okay. Oh my God. You guys are so awesome for hanging in here. Yay. Okay. So here's the thing. I think I cannot mess with it. Good morning.
What'd you do? Because I'm still sideways, at least to me.
Well, so I had it in profile in order to select that I'm going live, and then I turn it sideways, right? And it says, no, you cannot change it. So then the second time I thought I hadn't changed it, but obviously we're just not going to touch it now. Sorry for being late. I was here. I was trying to do good. Yeah. How are you this morning?
Good.
Oh, good.
I was going to text you to be like, you got to start us off because I'm starting out drained today.
Oh, okay. Well, let me say, this is what I have on my mind. I really do think that we should at least kind of start a long-term discussion about curiosity. Good versus bad, or is there such a thing, good versus bad? Secondly, I did do the marshmallow on Saturday. And so we could talk about that. I know if you guys want to pop over to either my Evolution of a Girl Instagram page or my personal Facebook page, you can see a couple little reels. For the insiders, I have, I don't know, like 20 minutes maybe of him. So I just need to finish those up. It'll be either tomorrow or Saturday. So for you guys that are members. And what else? Oh, I want to talk about, can we use the inside rein to get our horse onto the outside rein? Also, I want to say we have a bunch of new Horsemanship Insider members. And I just want to say, yay. So happy that you're here. If you're not a member yet, you should be. You can follow the links wherever. Mm-hmm. So that's what's on my mind.
That's a lot of things.
Curiosity, the marshmallow, and inside rein to outside rein. Which would you like first? You
Well,
guys
I
can vote.
the curiosity has been on my mind. Inside rein to outside rein. I mean, yeah. Let's have at it.
All right. Well, you start. Oh, here we have some comments. Let's see. No. Good morning, everybody.
Additional topic. What convincing your horse, and this is you versus me in terms of how you might approach it, but I'd be interested in how you'd approach it. Okay, so lots of horses I get in really not wanting to stay in the rectangle, particularly under duress or spooky at things, or they've learned to lean, so on and so forth. And they're oftentimes really, you're up against them being, okay, so you get them in the rectangle, out in the middle, everything's flowing. You can kind of push that to the edges a little bit. But then when it comes to, okay, we're just going to start to move through this part of the arena or go on this ride out through the field. And for all we've put the rectangle together, now it's being challenged by whatever outside influence there is. And so I was riding Heidi, who's the German riding pony, who's just stinking cool little horse. And
I really think everyone should have ponies. You guys, for real.
She's
I have
she's
to just see what's going on. I'm listening.
So, well, I'll just start with yes, my experience the last couple rides, because we're riding out now, Katie's experience with her is that as a 3-year-old, she was riding her across the Kentucky Horse Park from the barn to the show ring. She was nervous as a 3-year-old, but she kind of held it together, went and showed well, and so on and so forth, right? So we had this long discussion the other day about how, why is she now kind of reactive? When talking to Katie, my theory, well, before talking to Katie, and then I expressed it to Katie, is that she was always kind of held a bit in the rectangle. So I've been thinking about that, and now riding her out with one particular sign the other day really had her thinking that was going to kill her, and took a while to just kind of ease her up there rather than trying to pound her past it. But she really thought she was going to rear and go the other way, and all kinds of dramatic.
Was that when we were on the phone?
No, this is a couple days later. That was I was riding past something she was leery about, and then my outside shoulder brushed against a branch and made a noise, and that's, yeah.
And Michael's like, I'm about to get fucked off. Yay.
Yeah. So anyway, that was kind of a real extreme example of, I know how to be in the rectangle when we're not stressed out, and it's getting more accurate. We know where the United Circle is. We know the movements. We can do them balanced. But then, that was, again, a pretty extreme example. Now we're out riding and we come up on this thing that's scary to her. It's like the rectangle is now pretty loose. So we just made it through that and eased her through there and kind of tiptoed past it, and then rode past it a few times. And when she saw it was like from the other side, it looked like a sign. From the one side, it was kind of blending into the grass a little bit more. Whatever. But I've been thinking about all this with a few different horses recently, but with her in particular, the last few days, I've been thinking not about just saying stay in the rectangle and find peace here, because she's not really believing me that the sides of the rectangle are set, right? She'll bump against them, we'll put her back. She'll bump against them, we'll put her back. And I can get her to stay in the rectangle eventually, going past all these things. So I was out riding on the road the other day, gravel road this time, not pavement. And she was kind of doing her, oh, look at that, and bulging into my leg. And I was kind of putting her back and straightening her up, and which has, is important and useful and helpful to her. Yet at one point, I was like, you have got to get off my leg and not keep coming back into it. And I got quite firm with my leg, basically like you've seen Buck have, a horse that's kind of not yielding, and they're kind of pushing in. He'll move them over a little bit, and if they're not going, he'll leg yield them sideways a good, however many feet, to say, no, I mean, stay off this leg. And so it was that sort of thing. And it was just quite dramatic, the shift from having to kind of say, stay in the rectangle, to there's no way to leave the rectangle without running into a substantial amount of pressure. So it's like, of course, she could still leave the rectangle if she was really bothered by something and just terrified her. She would, really try to, blow out some way, and I'd have to kind of get her hindquarters and get her face back up, whatever. So it's not like I'm contained, but I guess that was the point, is I wasn't having to define the sides of the rectangle as consistent or as constantly as like fix, because she was going, there is a side over there that I really got to try to honor that, even as I'm looking at this over there. And then taking it to the curiosity conversation. And we could, once we get into that, I'll have some questions and thoughts around the different horses I've been working with. But at what point, and there isn't a point, but I've been thinking about with all of these different horses, at what point do you say you've got to stay in the rectangle and come right through the scary spot, right? Rather than creeping up on it, right? Because you can creep up on it to a degree or walk through there, and then at what point are we going to say trot through here and hold it together, right? Because you can walk through the space and they can kind of get turned loose and it going through their blind spot, and then you go to trot and it's come through and there's an acceleration slash maybe even blasting through there. So blocking
the first,
and stay in the rectangle, walk your way through here, think your way through here, and they make it. But I don't know, it's just things I've been thinking about. I don't know that I have answers as to. Heidi is a long ways along. I mean, she's very much knows how to yield and knows how to shape her body, knows how to come off the sides of the rectangle. It was just apparent to me how much, at least on those couple rides out, it was don't even think about pushing on this side of the rectangle, and that helped her go, I should stay in the middle, and then she settled. However, coming through the end of the arena, you can't send her sideways toward whatever's worrying her because you're right up against it. And so now, and I've done a lot of kind of shaping inside rein, outside rein, saying rock the pole, because even if I can get her body and her ribs over there and her hind leg stepping underneath, she's kind of got this, I got to look over there thing, which she's had all the way along. I think that's her biggest spot is the disconnection of I can go through the motions, but I'm not really committed and connected on a united circle. And it's out in the middle, she's believing it. She knows where the united circle is, both riding, loose rein, on the ground. It's getting better at a trot on the ground. She still will start to, I'm going to trot, so now I'm going to get my head all crooked. It's like, shape that up. It's interesting how much too, it's just like send, and Buckle pick up somebody else's horse and be like, go, offer for them to follow a feel, and then corner them right away and be like, but not like that. Don't leave with trouble. And I've been thinking about that with her, and then Stephanie and I were working with Fjord again. And so I was thinking,
oh, good, because that's cool.
Yeah,
I want to hear about that.
So I was thinking, go, but don't leave troubled. In this case, I was going, go, but don't leave disconnected. And so, like I said, Heidi's kind of slotted in and knows where that circle is at a walk, but at a trot, it's like we make the transition and the head kind of almost immediately tips. It's like, no, we're gonna do something. And a lot of, for Heidi in particular, and this is what I was doing with Della, the Fjord as well, was not necessarily roll the hindquarters. Like they're used to doing that. They can do that, but still kind of keep that defensive brace in the jaw. So interestingly enough, a lot of what I was doing was just coming up at the shoulder or flicking the flag like in their face or something to where they're like, whoa, like I can't, you're not just going to do the status quo, right? And that's how I got Heidi there. That's what I was kind of messing with Della, and Steph and I were talking about. So leave, but I need your attention rather than leave, but don't leave troubled. But then again, taking it into the corner or taking it outside.
So,
More so than, okay, so let's just say different zones. The center of the arena.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah,
out in the open. right? Or in the corner where, we've worked our way up to it, or then out and about near an obstacle or near the pen of horses, where as we come through there, I really feel like I need to check out those horses. It's different than when we're out a ways away from the horses, or when we're out a ways away from what's scary. I don't know how much you work with horses under duress out and about, and yeah, and how you would approach it, because I haven't seen you
Well,
working.
I just did this the other day with Novella, actually.
Really?
She's so funny. Yeah. Because she's so solid in lots of ways. My little lip is on, you guys, the little white one. But there are times when she does get bothered. The boogie corner, or everything's fine if it's sunny, but when it's pouring down rain and the drips and it's, so we know that you can have one thing in one situation and one thing in another. The first thing, though, I don't want to forget to say is, in a situation where the horse can walk through, but they can't trot through or canter through, or they can walk, trot, but not canter. I wonder how good the trot and the canter really is in other places. But do you want me to tell you just really quickly what I did with Novella?
Yeah,
Because
let's
it
do
does
it.
relate. Yeah. Because, okay, so let's imagine we're probably going to be, a lot of times, if we're riding inside, which a lot of us are this time of year, we're going to be on a curve at some point. We're going to have straight lines, but obviously we're going to have be on a curve. And so this really relates to what I've been worrying on, or pondering on, is how much can we truly get the horse over onto its outside feet with, honestly, like, I'm really thinking about, without having to kick them over, without having to pin them over between two reins. So I'll tell you about Novella in just a second, but this also relates to the marshmallow, because that is absolutely what he was doing. It is coming into the rectangle to defend himself.
Yeah. What?
AKA bulging the ribs, rolling the jaw the wrong way,
Yeah.
leaping up into the air like a freaking Bronco. I'm like, I didn't never thought I'd see you up there. I'm like, I told Buck, I'm like, I guess I didn't ask enough of him back when I just didn't think it was possible, you know. Not that it would have caused behavioral problems, but just in terms of the up level of what I should have been like, whoa. But it goes back to our discussion last week of like, what could he have done if he had kept working out? Yeah. Anyway, what were we gonna say? Because I was talking about the rolling of the inside of the curve.
Yeah, I mean, that's where you're
So
handicapped on the ground, and that you don't have an outside rein. And
yeah,
I mean, you
but
can drive them to the outside with, presence and a flag and all of that, but it's different than.
it's not different, though. That's the genius of it. And that is the most exciting thing, is that if we get it solid. So this is what I did with Novella, because I've been thinking about this as we've been going, especially you guys. Okay, so the little Novella reel that I posted, and then I asked a question at Horsemanship Insider, what do you guys see? So you could look at that right now. Everybody can go look at the little walk, canter, walk video. And I was like, what do you guys see? Because what I do when my horse is united and on the arc, I push the slack with the outside rein, which flies in the face of everything that most people talk about. They want to push the slack on the inside rein to show that the horse is on the outside rein. Okay. But so I'm thinking, but I do it. You guys have seen me do it for years. And it's not something that I consciously do. It is not. But I see myself do it and I know why I'm doing it. Okay. So I've been thinking about this. So then when Novella was, I just wanted to see. I don't do a lot of groundwork with her at this point, but I just wanted to see. So obviously, when I am 10 feet away from her and she's going through that corner, I cannot pin her over there. I cannot force her over there. I cannot, keep her. Um, I cannot force her in any way to stay in the rectangle. And yet, if she is respecting the end of the rope and she is really feeling for my energy on the inside of the arc, and she knows because of everything we do. This is the thing, you guys, is that it goes from the very, very beginning. Yield the hindquarters, forward and around. Yield the hindquarters, forward and around. But we have to do that with quality. It can't just be going through the motions. It can't just be that what I mean is, it's not going to work to add up to what I'm talking about if they're leaning on the inside front foot, if they're not truly concave. Side note, I've been thinking, I woke up in the middle of the night thinking about this. I can't believe how bendy the marshmallow is laterally on both sides. You can see it in those videos.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he is really turned loose. Now, when he gets defensive, he's like a giant tube, that's very stiff, but he doesn't have any problems bending. I was like, that's interesting. So if you set it up from the very first thing, and this is why they cannot be hitting the end of the line like that Haffy is doing, or the Fjord is doing, or like I was playing with Prim last night doing my groundwork before I rode her, and very, very aware that as they make the curve, they're not going to be pushing into the line. They cannot. This relates to when you're riding, because if you use your rein, your inside rein, and they truly melt away from it,
And yet forward.
mm-hmm, and then they will end up on the outside feet. They will end up staying off your inside leg. They will end up turn loose in their lumbar. So my point is, there's a bunch of things that from the very, very beginning that should add up to the ability to walk, trot, canter your horse through a scary spot on the end of the line, which it did with Novella. It did. And so I'm looking at her, and not at first, right? Because she kind of, especially she looks over her left shoulder. She goes through going to the right, left shoulder. So she had to think about it. Stay on your left feet. Turn loose on the inside, which she had to do if she was going to come around the curve and not hit the end of the line. Is this making sense to you guys?
So the element of for Heidi forward and around has been critical, because she's relied in the past, and like I was saying, even out and about, she's inclined to just kind of bulge away from something, but she's relied on being kind of boxed in with that outside rein. And one of the biggest things is getting her to follow that inside rein and go forward. And so, yes, absolutely, on the ground, when she's got her head tipped, she can kind of be going around, but she's not really, she's just going through the motions. She's not really feeling that rein and following it. So 100% on that. But what you said of novella gets exactly to the point of how soon, not soon, I mean, there's no answer to the question I'm asking. I'm just thinking about it as I'm working with these horses. Like, how fair is it to take off how big a chunk?
Sure. That's always a calculation, right?
And
But
so, like you're saying with novella, as much as you've prepared her, she can handle the chunk you're asking her to bite off. So you go through somewhere and the horse is going, I've squirted past that, umpteen times. I've been skeptical of it. My mind's been on it, even when I'm kind of following the arc and going around. But now we're in closer.
this is where, so when I got on novella, I knew, okay, I don't want to lose everybody. Let's see. I'll just say, when I got on novella, the right rein in particular, which is definitely the one that's going to be sticky, was better.
Mm-hmm.
But I still stayed on it until the right rein easily rolled her onto the left feet. Not like this, but easily rolled her onto the left feet. Like, so my point is, when, and you guys, we're going to do this. Whoever's ready, I'm guessing Rooster is going to be ready, but whoever is ready for this, we're going to do some of this, or I would like to do some of this with you guys in Wisconsin, in a few weeks, because when it's really working, you can use the inside rein to yield the hindquarters, obviously. So to pick up the inside hind leg, to pick up the outside hind leg. But you can also use it to move the outside front leg very easily when it's working. And it doesn't require the horse to bend a lot. And yet, it does require a weight shift. So you should be able to fix up your curve with the inside hind leg. You should be able to fix up your curve with the inside front foot. And you should be able to affect the horse's weight laterally with the inside rein. Okay, so this is what I'm saying is the inside rein can put your horse onto the outside rein. Although I don't think anybody really cares whether the horse is on the outside rein or not. What they care is that the horse's weight is to the outside, or, that tends to be the fix. We want it balanced. It's never going to be, but we want the horse's weight to be on the outside so that they're distributed evenly across the ground. And we don't want any brace on the inside. That is the goal. That is what we're trying to do. And this is exciting to think about. Aha. Okay, so we can do all of this. This is my hypothesis. We can do all of this with the inside rein. Now, there's only one person that really agrees with me on this so far. But I'm pretty sure I can prove the hypothesis. And you guys can play with it too, but doesn't it make sense then that if we start with our groundwork, everything off the inside, you don't need 2 reins for a soft feel. Duh. You don't need 2 reins to move your horse onto the outside feet. You don't need 2 reins to get them to bend laterally. Right? So what are the components that add up to that, so that, and this is what I'm trying to say, so that when you use the inside rein, when you're riding, it doesn't have to bend the horse in half. You can just gently rock the horse to the outside feet and keep on rolling. And that is what, after watching Novella on the ground, and that was mostly why I was doing it, so that I could see her as she's motoring across the ground, you know, and I could kind of watch her body change. But then when I got on, like I said, I just made sure that she was bending off the right rein, super braced, that like that's her history, you know, if she's going to get tight, it's going to be off the right rein. And so once that was really rolling, not so that she would bend in half, that was part of it. Like obviously the thing we were talking about with the fjord, like don't, and I was helping Wendy with this too the other day. It's like there needs to be nothing blocking the rein to the hind leg. Once that is the case though, then the inside rein just rolls the horse onto the outside feet without bending them. I mean, roll the jaw, yeah. But so this then basically 100% removes the need to use your leg at all. Now, if your horse is bracy on the inside, off the, let's say Novella off the right rein, then I did kick her with my right leg till it was working. And when it was then when I checked it off the list was when I used my right rein and it rolled her onto the left feet. Super easy, like just like really, really simple. And then she's not bracing on the inside. So then when she's looking over her left shoulder, the inside rein just softened her. And you know, of course, at that point, the horse is not just gonna blast through the deal. They're confirmed anyway that they're not going to do that. I got to read some comments here because yes, and the answer to your question, Val, is it's part and parcel to. So Val's saying, Michael, is this a refinement of the inside rein draped at the front of the shoulder blade? Holy shit about what Michael and Rooster are going to be doing. Yeah, Val, I don't know why you can't do it either. I mean, I think a bunch of you guys can do it, but it's funny because I want to do a video for a friend of mine about this to prove my hypothesis. And I was like, I know I can't do this with Novella. I was thinking about that earlier in the week. Lots of like Zorro for sure, Katniss for sure. We did it with all of Nathan's horses, you know, and so I was thinking, well, why do I know that this isn't going to work? Well, then once I fixed it up the other day, then we could do it.
Fixed what
The
up,
right
or fixed it up?
rein, her leaning on the right rein. Mm-hmm. And then, you guys, I was riding Prim last night, so my little pony. And by the way, Lisa, Scout is a pony. Anything under 14.2 is a pony, you guys. Come on. Who is in Pony Club? So any of y'all's horses that are, you guys can be part of my pony club. So my little dark bay pony, green, super, super green. And oh man, bracy as hell off the right rein. Like she's not defiant or anything, and I haven't put her in a situation where she's needs to like be really scared, but it would not work. Like we need to get the right side working. And you can kind of see, for those of you guys that are members, look under the backstage pass, look under Prim, you can kind of see that it definitely wasn't working at first. So, well, then I'm riding her last night, but the way I was using the right rein after riding Novella, definitely more. I mean, that is what I'm feeling for. I'll do it this way, you know, so that it doesn't just go to the hind leg, but it goes to the hind leg and the whole horse rolls onto the outside rein.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Two things. I mean, two things that are obvious. One, it's obvious in the sense that It's more your intent and the feel with which you pick up that rein as to what foot you connect it to.
Yes.
Like for some, I mean, even just sticking with the inside front and the inside hind, like the feel you present and the timing with which you present that inside rein is going to, you know, even if your hand is not moving into any largely different position, you know, and I have to emphasize with folks that just don't have any quite connection with rein to foot, like getting in time with the feet and a little bit bigger movement of their hands so they can kind of start to feel the feet, make sure they have generally the right feel, they're not coming straight back, all of that. But then it's like, okay, now you're not needing to move your hand near as much as you are. Let's hone that in. And now think about what foot you're connecting with, and your hand still isn't going to move that much one way or the other. It's more just the angle of the feel with which you're picking it up. So why wouldn't that apply to the outside? There's actually three things. Well, I guess that's the same thing. I was going to split it into third, but just picking it up and I guess the other thing is waiting, right? And just setting it up, letting the horse find it, rewarding when it comes through. And I'm thinking mostly there, like with Heidi or with Chelsea's horse Denali, like just kind of going, well, we're gonna stay in this hindquarter yield or repeat this hindquarters into the front end, or kind of just be in there until that shoulder moves out, and they're just kind of slot into a flexion that turns loose through the whole body, and then you will see the soft feel, just kind of the skull just gets to where it hangs there as opposed to pokes out. So yes, all of that makes sense, kind of obvious. Then I'm thinking, okay, riding Heidi, right? I mean, shortening the rectangle and saying, you know, then you go to, well,
I would.
when would you?
It shortens on its own. It shortens plenty on its own.
It does, yes, but if as you're going, there's this wanting to poke the nose out.
Yeah.
You
Then it
know,
needs to be.
yeah. Okay. So in theory, yes, we can get this all done with one rein, and you can, but at the same time, you know, with Heidi, when she's all kinked up, if I go, okay, I'm only going to do this off the inside rein and da 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 da, because it's possible. Well, as soon as we get under duress and she's just like, I got to look at that, it's like, a good bit of this is me insisting, no, hold this arc in your body. And I mean, I'm trying to think what horses I've seen Buck do it. I think even watching him with Bozeman, that inside rein saying, you have got to tuck that jaw up under there.
Yeah, it's
With
just
the support of the outside rein. And I've done a fair bit of that with
but
Heidi.
he wasn't scared or trying to leave the rectangle. That was
No.
just facing up, you know, that was just adding like little bits of detail,
Mhm.
right? That wasn't, well, so that's different. And that's the thing with Heidi. I would be so curious to see, basically, I would be curious to see the groundwork where she feels safe in the middle.
Mhm.
That's hindquarters, forequarters go both directions. Well, hindquarters, forequarters go 3 times, you guys, and then switch directions and do it again. Then to see it.
Go 3 times, then switch directions. Not hindquarters, forequarters go.
Sorry. Yes, good point. Correct. Michael is correct. I said that wrong. Yes, hindquarters and go, hindquarters and go. Yes.
I'll be here all day. does to clear.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah, yeah. And then I'd like to see it, I would want to see it in the scary spot. Like, what does it look like when she's at the end of the lead rope? Can she handle it? Or what? Can she handle it walk, trot, canter? Or what? Right? Same when you're riding. Just to be able to compare, because here's the thing. And are they hitting the end of the lead rope in the groundwork? And I would say, for those of you guys that are members of Horsemanship Insider, go to Backstage Pass, watch Gary doing the groundwork on these colts, because you will see, now that I've said this, you will see when he's satisfied with it, he can change direction or just bend the horse and then tip them out onto their outside feet just with a suggestion, just with a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And that is when it checks out, not before. So the question is with Heidi, the question is, can she do that in the scary spot with you on the ground? So basically one rein at a time. Can she?
No, because it's still like, again, if you're not saying, hey, pay attention. Oh yeah, okay, I can slot in here rather than just go through the motions. And then, okay, now let's trot. Okay. It's like, no.
Mm-hmm.
Don't trot like that. And then she finds it and she's like, oh, okay, and now I can just trot. And so she takes a bit of time to slot into that and go, no. Remember, this is not just going through the motions. And, I don't know, maybe I guess if I incrementally crept in there.
I don't think, I mean,
Well,
what?
Because when she's there, I mean, just like you say, Gary's like a feeling, like just a suggestion. She's like, yep, okay, I'm out here. And that's like seldom even necessary once she kind of slots in, commits to going forward, as opposed to I'm going forward, but with this crookedness that's not really thinking about you. It's just there, and partly because she's quite balanced. I mean, she's short and
Fancy.
square.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's the thing. I mean, if there was a freaking ball of firecrackers going off and you say, okay, now that we got this, we're going to go right over there and deal with it. No. They're going to go, yeah, you're cool and all. And like, I know how to do this, but that's going to kill me.
Yeah.
Right. So where's the.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm super curious. I'm going to be playing with this too, you guys, and really, really testing it, because the question is, if the horse is confirmed with rolling onto the outside feet, united, of course, how are they going to do it without being united? You got to have them both, right? So if the horse is committed to rolling onto the outside feet, my theory is that the world can come down on the outside of the arc and they will block it out. It's my theory. I gotta test it. Where's Gary Bailey? We need to ask him. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's how this is getting done when it works. And so, of course, for me, I would prefer to really push the envelope while I'm standing on the ground. But Michael, think about all the things, all the prerequisites to this. For instance, what if you have a horse that's going to really get scared and shoot forward past the scary thing and you're on the ground? They have to know where the end of the line is.
So even if they do,
They're not going to come on you. That's the thing. If they know where the front of the line is, in other words, the front of the lead rope, you guys, so that if they were tied off to a fence, they know there's an end, right? And they're not going to come on you because you know how to do something to be like, nope, you're not coming in here, which I'm way better about doing that on the ground than my short little legs on the saddle. I can't be as forceful. This is why I'm having to figure it out, right? But on the ground, I can be like, don't come. They figure it out. They figure out they cannot come on to me.
Yeah.
So
100%.
the second part is don't go into the lead rope. And then what choice do you have but to stay on your arc and go past?
Fair enough, but you can go through there pretty fast and still not hit the end of the lead rope.
Well, you have to be swinging your hindquarters into the thing you're scared of.
As you get through there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so
And
it's here. You can get past it and then swing your hindquarters.
yeah.
Out.
But what you could do at that point is, I think, is what I would do, and if you picture this, is basically prevent the rocketing through, which you can also do. But I think the difference between riding in that scenario and being on the ground is I obviously can't use an outside rein when I'm riding. So versus if you're riding, I don't know if I'd be willing to be that forceful on the front because you could flip a horse over on you, whereas they're not really apt to go up as much
From the ground.
Yeah. And so the other thing, of course, I did with Novella through the scary spot is just double checked that she could lead on by and roll the hindquarters. And and yeah, she kind of could because she's not a super hot horse, but another horse would be super hot and, flinging all around. She was tight, which was what was hashing on all of our quality. So the principles were the same. So when she could go through there, because if she was going to haul ass through there, what do? You block with the front. You'd be like, ugh, don't do it. Like, there's one funny part in the marshmallow video. You guys are going to laugh so hard. It was part of where he just leapt in the air like that, like a freaking athlete. And I had asked him to change direction and come through, and you'll hear the audio. I'm like, well, not exactly like that. That was the last time we really tried it too, but I didn't really do anything, which was what it was. But you don't look convinced. So tell me what you're thinking. Oh, Lynn says that 2024, she needs a pony. Oh, yeah.
To
All
me,
of us need ponies.
to me, the it's all a matter of degrees. Like I said, you get Novella really good, and then you set up a pack of firecrackers next to her. She's not gonna hold it through there. So to me, the answer has to be in the degrees to which you take it, and then making that judgment call of how much we can handle or how much is reasonable for the horse to be successful at any given point.
Of course.
And that's not given point, okay, now the horse can handle this, but each deal, each day, each moment, right? So now we're freaked out because the door slammed right as we were coming through there after having been relaxed. Now we might have to kind of back it up and go through there at a walk again for a little while, make sure we're in the rectangle, or trot through a little further away, and then like you're always kind of working your way back in there.
And so
And I guess that's what I'm saying. I'm not convinced. I'm convinced in that, yes, in theory, okay, if you got this good, you got it good, and it'll take you through. But you still have to develop that trust over time through those moments of duress. It's not like, oh, I've got it, so I've got
Sure.
it, right?
Yeah. Yes. I just think that my awareness, this is, I'll just say this, you guys, from my perspective, or from where I'm at right now, my awareness of the pieces that cause it to work in any given situation, in other words, cause my ability to support my horse to be working, are the things that we know, obviously, but with few more quality details. And then you think about, like, let's say Buck, I think it was Reuben or Sweet, I can't remember. But you know what, Spanaway, when there were all those people and he did the clapping thing while he did the short serpentine. Because guess what he was doing? One rein at a fucking time, turning the horse. I'm serious. That is what works.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But that was, I'm just saying, of course he didn't start there. Because why not? Because it was not confirmed.
Mm-hmm.
He's still not looking convinced, you guys. What do you think the problem is?
No, again, it's not like I'm not convinced. It's a matter of it's my thinking through with all these different horses, all these different scenarios, because I don't have all the time in the world. Like even with Heidi, I have a decent amount of time, but it's like I'm trying to get through things that have been bubbling and brewing in her by my theory of, you know, how she got from being fairly settled competitive 3 and 4-year-old to pretty reactive. And I don't know if I mentioned at one point, she does this weird, she's only done it twice now. One of the times was when we were on the phone. But she'll like, I'm trying to think the order. And so the first time I was on a pretty loose rein because I was trusting her pretty good. I mean, we were just falling on, but then there was something down as we went past the gate in the end of the arena. It's kind of dark because the lights are off back there. And excuse me, she jumps sideways or like spooked sideways, but then reared as she did it, and then kicked her hind legs up, and it turned into a little bit of a buck. And yet all of that, she was still moving sideways in the midst of it. So it was like little spook side, or, you know, halfway spooking sideways, then rear, then buck, and we're still in the air, still, and then we land another 5-6 feet to the side. So anyway, it was like I haven't quite felt that combination of movements all in one movement.
Which is why
But anyway, that's kind of what Katie described, is like now she's kind of doing this, and I don't want to get hurt. Like it's not worth my trying to work through this. And even though she's a very nice mare, like this is maybe not the horse. You know, let's find a different spot for her rather than me getting hurt trying to work through this. So anyway,
and you of all people are super, you know, the very, very well suited to setting a horse up to test them, because you can ride it, because you do know how to fix it, and you know, and there is an element of exposure.
yes. So that's the thing, is the exposure. It's, you know, if we're talking in terms of, okay, this has to be just so, and now it's going to take me through X amount of fire. And, you know, of course you're trying to get each piece of it just so, but you're dealing with, I go through the motions and I don't really know what united is. I don't know that united is that important, because all that's been asked of me was go around and walk, trot, lope. No concern for being united. Didn't really have too much experience of a hindquarter yield, at least not anything balanced. And so all that like is shaping up in terms of like, yeah, hindquarter yield, no problem. Well, even there is like, if you're just going through the motions, she's going to have her head crooked. So you got to be thinking about that as you're doing it, because you could be doing all the movements and I'm not going to get her any better to be able to send her back and be like, okay, Katie, you should have some success with this now. So it's
You
just
mean
frustrating.
you mean if the movements, you're getting the movements but
If
not
I'm
the
just
qualities?
doing, just riding the horse or just doing groundwork and not helping her get in a rectangle that's aligned, right? So
Yeah.
yes, all of those things, but it's not like, okay, we've got to where the moment I come out, all of this is just locked in, dead on.
Yeah.
We get to the
I
trot and we can go to lope and it's all just like, whoa, confirmed. Every day you're going, not like that. Remember how we do this. And then it gets
Mhm.
better and then you go on. But in the midst of all that, you're going, okay, we have to do our groundwork thoughtfully and be in a balanced rectangle that is connected. We have to then be able to connect the rein to the foot inside or outside, more or not inside or outside, front or back, decent with the hind leg, particularly if you roll her up. But like short serpentines have been challenging for her because she just bends and that foot doesn't want to go for you. So there's another thing we've had to really put some time into. Then not too bad on like a more open serpentine at a walk, getting connection to that foot. That slotted in pretty quick and we got that. But now, like we talked about last week or a couple weeks ago, we go trotting. And if there's a surge, if I don't catch it early enough, and we talked about even there, like maybe you need support with the outside rein to like it. She knows how to rebalance off that, so use it and then push the slack in it. But if you just at a trot, she gets a little impulsive, go, okay, well, follow this rein with your foot. Like, well, now she's like, well, I've been used to having the outside rein there. And so she needs that kind of to help her get there, and then you can push the float and whatever. So that needs to check out. So we're working on all that. So, I mean, if I was waiting for each of those elements to be like locked in, right? Like you're saying, if this is working, if, go back, is your, like, no, it's not. But we're making progress on all those things. Meanwhile,
Yep. She's
I still have
getting
to go,
exposure. Yep.
we got to get through this end of the rectangle without you going, oh, I'm going to kind of shy away from it. Or we got to make it down the road and pass things without you just going, screw you on my back. I'm worried about that. And I'm going to go over there. Right. So the rectangle has to be.
Yeah. Yeah. So all we're, yes, yes, to everything you're saying. The only thing we're trying to parse out is when this is what you started the conversation with, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is when we're fixing on it because she's not staying in the rectangle.
Mm-hmm.
What do we have available to us?
Yes.
Not should she be exposed to things she's not okay with? Of course. You know, are we going to insist that she stays in the rectangle? Uh-huh, of course. The question is, how are we going to do that?
Mm-hmm. So, related to what we talked about last week or whenever it was, a couple weeks ago, if she's not following that inside rein and getting a bit more impulsive and she's going, I can't follow that inside rein, it's just bending my neck, that's kind of
You
what.
cannot, I don't know how you function like that. I feel like you have to yield your hindquarters until it connects. I don't know how you can do anything if the inside rein does not attach to the inside hind leg. How do you do that?
Like the inside front is not following it, so we bend but the shoulder's still kind of scooping wide. I mean, if I
But
roll
she,
up, if
but
I rolled
she,
her up more, and again, it's when she gets like when it starts to fall apart, right? That's where I'm like, okay, if this is all hunky dory and ideal, sure, but when she starts to fall apart, because our conclusion the other last week, whatever, was, okay, you can roll her into the hindquarter yield, but then you're still going to trot off afterward. Or you could always bring it back to the walk, or you could always bring it back to the short serpentine to get that connection to the foot. But at some point, you go, we're going to trot. And if it's available, to use that outside rein to say, don't go through the shoulder, and then release that outside rein and go. And it's great. It works. So I guess
But also, see, Michael, this is the other thing, is I think that the inside rein can create a half halt as well.
Yeah. And that's compelling and appealing. No, I wanted, like, because what I started off with saying is like, well, yeah, obviously, like, that makes sense. And I've seen elements of that working, and how, just the feeling in your hand and what you're waiting on, and just setting it up and letting the horse finding it, releasing when they get there. Like, yeah, I 100% believe that's possible. Under duress, like.
And that's where, and this is exactly what I'm
kind of like you said a second ago. What do you have? You're going to need all your resources, right?
Yeah.
Depending on the level of duress.
Yes. And this is where all the things you're doing, obviously, everybody knows that all the things that you're doing are what you need to do, because, you only have the horse for a certain amount of time. You got to expose the horse. You got to up level everything that you're doing in degrees, obviously. I just want to note that for the half halt to work off the inside rein, so crazy to even say that. There are going to be people that are like, what? Even I'm doing that, you guys. But for the half halt to work off the inside rein, for the horse to, they have to turn loose on the inside of their body, and they have to roll their weight out definitely onto the outside shoulder, because usually it's going to be on the inside shoulder. But this is the beauty of doing it from the ground, is you can put up a barrier on the inside and be like, there's no police here. Versus when you're riding, it's harder to fill that space with your presence, which is where your outside rein is supposed to help you, create this space here. But if you're standing there, they're not going to come on you. So all I'm saying is, one can condition, hopefully, a feeling in the horse that the inside rein rolls them to their outside feet and turns them loose on the inside. And then if that's there, at least that's somewhere in their consciousness, right? Mm-hmm. So that you're not accidentally having to try to convince them of that when there's pressure from the outside of the arc. Mm-hmm. Now, they still might brace, but the dream is that if you pick up that rein,
they know how to find it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So even if you end up like a bunch of steps, they might like brace and then go, but at least you can and start again.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, 100% totally agree, because I can do it from the ground off the inside rein with just a feeling, and yeah, I mean, not quite that at all.
Yeah, right. So,
and I hadn't thought about it being harder from the saddle, and thus that's the place for the outside rein. And I think
it's way harder for me from the saddle.
It is, and yet again, back to you can just feeling where the balance of the horse is with that rein, you can shift the weight.
Which is why I'm saying I'm building that into Prim, like right away, that she understood. Like, so pretty soon she won't have any other way of going. She's just barely had anything to, so all the rest of that will just fall off to the point where, my dream is, if I do a good job, that I won't have rolled her over behind without also rolling her out onto her outside feet. That's my dream.
Yeah. So to what degree do you, when
Lynn says compelling and appealing.
uh
I love it.
to
So
what
good.
to what degree do you uh
Oh,
go ahead.
Julie had a question. No, no, no. Julie has a question too. But
Okay.
continue.
To what degree, and I know you do this, I don't know how much I've heard you mention it in the Insider, but you just referenced it when the horse is, say blasting through there. It's like you need to define the front of the rectangle. So in the half halt off the inside rein, right?
Sacrilege. I feel like the dressage masters are rolling over in their grave. But on the other hand, I don't think so necessarily, because the whole point is that they should turn loose on the inside and roll onto the outside feet. So if we're really accomplishing that with the inside rein, then the whole thing should make sense.
Okay, so how much of that is built by having a backup on a field? Because when you pick up that rein and it has, again, just the feeling of an energy, you're not maybe, having to firm up to say, sit back, but you can go, hey, shift your weight back or stop while you're on this arc and like back up.
A backing circle, a 4/4 yield,
Okay.
like all of
Yeah.
it
So
is the
shifting
same.
the weight back for the 4/4 yield, there's an element of in my energy, in the move, the hold in my hand, not hold as in holding tight, but there's
The
an,
pull.
yeah, the like, you should have shift, can we shift there so we can go? So you know, I only point that out to say I know kind of how to shape that up, but it might not be apparent. Like that's a component that I don't think we talk about a lot. But that was one thing that really stood out in that first video you did with Katniss, the assessing groundwork or whatever, was, using the tools I know to use, right? But just the feel timing with which you did it was like, no, keep marching forward, but not fast or choppy here. Stretch out with, move your hind legs forward more without going fast.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
And so it's the same thing. Rolling them to the outside is like, keep going, but shift the weight back as you do it.
Yeah, and it's not
Shift the
always
weight out.
back.
Yes.
Yeah, because sometimes it's not back, depending on where the feet are.
Yeah. And sometimes it's like in a real extreme case, or an extreme, but someone whose horse is just kind of leaning on them or hurrying forward when they go to drive the shoulder out and they're just kind of learning this. It might be drive the shoulder and now block the front end and say, that did not mean blast out of here.
I
Okay.
did that with a warm blood in Boring. The guys were at the buck clinic in Boring. I was going to lead the horse by, and he was just crawling on the lady. And because he just didn't understand, but then he went to shoot forward. And of course, that's where you can get your brains kicked out and all sorts of bad things. Aside from just, oh, my horse was still spooky. Like, you really can't get hurt. And so there has to be an ability to say, not there, try it again. So all those things that we do unconsciously, that we would be fixing up on somebody's, like, brand new groundwork maybe, or even my little baby mule. There's still times where she'll get a freight and she'll go forward and I have to corner her, be like, but there's the end of the lead rope there, chica. You just
So there's the end of the lead rope, but then there's also where we're talking about, there's the end of the lead rope in terms of when you go forward, you need to feel the end of the lead rope and roll over. There's also the front of the rectangle that can be defined with just I mean, the slightest little bit, if you've developed it on the lead rope, of going,
Oh, of
not
course.
kind
So the end of the lead rope and the front of the rectangle are one and the same.
well, yes.
What do you mean?
When you say,
Well, yes.
well, when you say the end of the lead rope and say rolled her over, when you're rolling her over, implies flexion and moving the hindquarters. When you're saying the front of the rectangle, you're not necessarily bending and rolling over. You should be setting them to the outside of their body, and the hind leg will step under. So
Yeah, but you're still
there.
the front of the rectangle is still the front of the rectangle, even if they're yielding the hindquarters.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there's different ways of
mm-hmm.
and degree what you're doing.
That's why, like I said, I'm willing on the ground to get as firm as I need to block the front of the rectangle. Period. Whereas in the saddle, I wouldn't be that firm because I don't want the horse flipping over on me. I don't want them to, to get so bothered. But it's way more comfortable, and I know it's gonna work on the ground. Even you'll see it on the marshmallow video. One time I blocked the front of the rectangle with my flag, and I mean, I wouldn't want to be riding that. You can ride it. But even you, but even you, like on a horse, let's say that was prone to tip over, or you would not be messing with it. So yes, you can ride more, you can ride more than I can. But on the other hand, there's still degrees to which you would be like, well, I'm not doing that. It's not safe.
It's not worth it. Yeah, it's not safe. Yeah. It's fun to a degree. Until it's not fun, right?
It's always fun if you feel safe.
Yeah.
It's like when Novella gets a fright, she sometimes it's better now that I'm getting these details better. But there are times when if I'm letting her look over her left shoulder, just flinching to look over her left shoulder occasionally, then she'll kick the sand onto the wall or onto the panels, and it scares her, and then she hops around. And I'm like, don't buck me off. She doesn't scare me. That's why we should all have ponies, you guys. So fun. Whereas if Davina was going to take a few leaps, or the marshmallow, that's a lot of force. Now, Novella could still buck me off if she really wanted to, but don't tell her that. So Julie has a question. Julie she says, does this make you question how settled she, Heidi, really was at 3 as opposed to tuned out and shut down? That's a good question. I think I know the answer, but you say.
Yeah.
Morning, LG.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what I talked to Katie about, is how much the way Katie expressed it, and I felt this too right off the bat, is there's still, to answer Julie's question, yes, I think she was A, shut down, B, contained. Where she wasn't shut down, the degree to which she was troubled, she was able to be contained. Right? So I think she was both. However, I really respect Katie's feel for a horse and her awareness of a horse. And her honesty in, like, I can't get to this horse, rather than just like, oh, I'm really skilled and whatever. Like, she's going, I can't figure this horse out. I want her to be better than this. I want her to. But she said she always felt like she never really had, I wish I could remember her exact words, but she never really had the whole horse. And the context in which she said it was like, mentally, she wasn't really in the game with her. She could do all the stuff. She's fancy. She knew how to yield, but she wasn't like giving it her all. Like, there was parts of her that were inaccessible, right? So yes, I think there's the element of being shut down, but not like and maybe she started this way, when Katie first got her, but as Katie worked with her, I think there might have been an element of her kind of going, well, I'm not being hammered or, confined so much. Like, Katie giving her more space and her feeling a little bit less confined. And then she was kind of waking up to the world a little bit. I don't know, right? I think that could have been part of it. But for
Confinement
sure,
is such an interesting word and so subjective.
yes. Yeah, because I mean, what I was saying earlier about like you got to be in the rectangle while we go past this log. Like, get off that leg. You know,
Or a wild horse like Feather in a huge round pen.
confined.
Confined.
Yeah.
And trying to get out of it.
So I do think that um, Heidi and a lot of horses. Well, I shouldn't say a lot. It's not infrequent where the horse has been kind of contained or managed, and then you say, "I want you to do this on a loose rein," and for a while they're like, just feel like they're gonna slosh around because they're used to being held. They've never ever gone united or loose and free.
But there's an element too of the, you know, you can abandon a horse with having too long of a rein so that you're too late.
Yeah.
It's the same thing if you're on a 22-foot line or on the end of a last rope and you're like, and you have a colt who doesn't know anything, you are late. You're less demanding, but it's not helpful.
Mm-hmm.
So, to some degree, I think having enough rein, short enough rein that you can support the horse. So sometimes we do see that horses get used to and very comfortable with being supported in a more um, exacting rectangle, and then when you do ask them to handle that on their own, it turns out they were relying on the you to define the edges, and now they feel lost.
And yeah, they have to learn that the edges are there, but they can't, the edges aren't going to be touching them, if you will.
Yeah, and it's their responsibility, not yours, because that's definitely, I don't know if this happened with Heidi or not, but uh, I've definitely ridden horses where they are expecting you to say everything, and then when you be like, okay, so now you handle your own deal. So maybe that was Julie's question. So did you answer her question?
I thought so.
Okay,
I don't know.
Julie can.
Julie, did I answer your question? Does it make you, I think the question was, does it make you,
No,
you know, how much maybe she was just shut down, not, you know,
settled.
settled. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And although
Or
I don't know this particular
not
situation,
contained. It wasn't
yeah,
just contained, but she was shut down and therefore not needing containment as much because she was just like, I'm going to go along. So, yes, I think there probably was a component of that, which is why Katie was like, she's just not there. Like, she's not with me.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. We could say the same thing of a horse that's dull and checked out. Even if you're maybe not managing the edges of the rectangle, they're kind of managing it themselves because they're so blah.
Mm-hmm.
But just because a horse, I guess all I'm adding to it is just because a horse is um, has a hard time going on a longer rein or completely autonomous doesn't necessarily mean they're shut down. They could, depending on the horse, it could.
Definitely not.
Yeah. We're almost out of time. Can you believe that? That went by so fast.
We haven't even talked about half of what you wanted to talk about.
Well, I feel
We
like.
touched on pretty well everything, little bits, but
Did you see the marshmallow reel?
yeah, I saw the reel. Some pretty cool still shots.
Oh, like, you'll see. When you see, I mean, it all happened so fast, but it's just like. And it is so. I hope I get to do more with him. It won't be till after I come see you guys, but his current owner's very cool, and it'll be really neat if we get to do some more with him. But it's just interesting that a horse can get so, like, he's obviously feeling defensive, and it's like, oh, he's a spoiled brat.
What?
She didn't say that, but you know.
And it's interesting what it's like the stages of grief or whatever, like what they go through and to when they're defensive. You know, do they shut down? Because some I think can shut down and then from there go, I can't shut down through this, or this is beyond frustrating. I'm going to be sour, but now I'm going to start acting out. Like,
It's a great point.
you know,
That's a great,
they
like, how far.
all respond to it differently, and depending on how, you know, the frustrating or confusing thing is presented to them, you know, the same horse might respond differently to different people because, you know, they're annoying them or frustrating them in slightly different ways. Or it
It
might
was
start
so
here.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so fun to like be like looking at him and be like, and the cool thing, Michael, the cool thing was he was talking to me right away. Right away. And interestingly enough, he was tied to the trailer when I got there because they were both, Debbie and Kara were kind of interested in like how he would be. He didn't like nicker at me, whinny at me, or anything like that. We didn't have the camera on at the time. You know, but he was looking at me, so I walked up and I went to scratch his shoulder. He pins his ears. I just block him. I'm like, what are you doing? You know, and then softened up really quickly. But it was fascinating to look at him and be like, what are you doing? And especially because I have a ton of experience with him where that wouldn't have been what he would do. So, and certainly not with that much effort.
Mm-hmm.
But really good. See, I don't know. We will see. I really am going to try, you guys, to have a chance to do more with him. It's all very well and good to say, oh, you know, we got to this point on this day. But we need more data in order to prove a theory, right? But I did not punish him for any of it. And it was pretty naughty. I mean, on the other hand, he's plenty big enough to leap past me and kick me in the head. He absolutely could have done that. And hopefully at the angle a little bit, but he knew the front of the rectangle. That's the thing that I had, is definitely he was aware of that. But I guess my point is that what struck me with him is he had no agenda of being that way. That's why, you guys know, I don't quote Ray willy-nilly. I quote Tom a lot because I don't know. He's my patron saint. But Ray's thing, and I think Gary heard him say it multiple times at clinics, and I paraphrase just a tiny bit. But the sentiment is almost exactly right, is that horses either are doing what they think they're supposed to do, or they're doing what they think they have to do to survive. And okay, so let's just take that. If that were true, Ray Hunt did say it, lends a tiny bit of credibility. but if that is indeed true, then all we need to do is show them you don't have to survive. Like you don't have to do this in order to survive. You're gonna be fine. And I don't need you to do it like this. And clearly the situation with the marshmallow was he thought he had to do it either because he was gonna get hassled to the point where he had to put his foot down, or he was concerned about me. And there were a little bit of both. There was a little bit of both. But I guess this is what I'm trying to sum up. I don't really have to do much because because he wanted neither of those things. So like half of it was what you've seen me do. It's like, oh, you're fine. And then he's looking at me like, what should I do? The other thing is, and from that reel, it's hard to tell, but you guys will see, I was very serious with him about not coming into the rectangle with his, in other words, you have to roll to the outside of the rectangle. But much easier on the inside, standing on the inside of that horse with a flag and a lead rope to be like, don't come in here. And I wanted that for sure before I crawl on that horse, roll my hand down the rein, and nothing happens. He gets super stiff and bucks me off. Like, no thanks. Could still happen, depending on, I don't think so, but my point is you're not going to be able to sneak around the horse in the final analysis on the ground. You still have to go walk, trot, canter, go, yield. Like, this has to be happening, and not in a sneaky way. Otherwise, if the chips are down when you ride, it's not going to work. But all that being said, the way I got to that had nothing to do with punishment. But there were a couple things that he had. First of all, he wasn't pushing on the front of the rectangle. This is credit to Kara. Not put, like, in other words, he never came crawling over the top of me. Always was willing to back up off the lead rope. Would stop when he hit the front of the line. You'll see him one time, this big leap, and I didn't even get a chance to corner him because by the time he landed on the ground, he stopped in response to the fact that my lead rope was there. So I had no, he didn't go by me so I could corner him. So he was not pushy. He was not blasting through the front of the rectangle. Really, I did have to maybe a tiny bit in the beginning. And then he was bendy. He was physically bendy. Way more than you would think on that body style. And united. So it's not like any one of those pieces was missing. They were all there. And then it's just a matter of like, you want to do it like that? You'd be like, I mean, half of it was just making faces at him, I feel like.
Do you realize how ridiculous he was?
Yeah. And then he'd do something else, and I'd be like, you guys have to tell me. Anyway, I won't go on and on about it. Corey says, how to make the rectangle feel like support versus confinement, and how to help the horse feel confident in that freedom. I can feel my horse's tension increase if I go too far to one extreme or the other, for sure. Yes. Buck would be like, it's a feel thing. It's just feel. Remember when we used to be like, where do we go for the app for that?
Can we download that?
Yeah. Anyway, isn't that interesting, Michael? I mean, it was so fun with the marshmallow because it really did feel like just a conversation, and all the tools were there.
Yeah, I think that's a big one for your history as to how much you could just look at him and kind of let it shape up. Is he, like, thinking to Heidi, it is still it is kind of just looking at her like, do you want to go like that? Do you need to? But it's still showing her like, you don't have to go like that. Like, it's still, like we've talked in the past about the stacks of paper. She's had lots of hours of lunging, lots of hours of groundwork and rolling the hindquarters and whatever, that didn't notice whether or not she was connected. And we've got, a month and a half, here and there of stacking on the papers that are adding up to, oh, this is the way to be. So, you know, it,
And it's funny because the only way for that to work is because it does suit them,
yeah.
right? Otherwise, we'd be toast.
But then for, how quickly, like I'm just thinking of horses where it's got, like they are just slot in and are solid, but then you put someone on the end of the rope who they kind of feel the need to drive the whole time, and the horse is going, what am I doing wrong? Like, I think I'm where I'm supposed to be, but the pressure is not going away. Am I supposed to then, like, do you want me to drift to the outside? And pretty soon the shoulder's just gone and the horse starts getting worried. And it's like, God,
Because
are,
accidentally,
there's
the person
something
is
else.
rewarding things that doesn't suit the
And
horse. Oh my God. Did you see? I
that
saw a
the
picture.
horse.
One more
They're
time.
communicating things without realizing
Mhm.
it. So
Yeah,
that the horse is doing things that don't suit the horse.
that's right.
Yeah.
And we all do that
Yeah.
to one degree or the other. Don't feel bad. You gotta just do your best. Michael, did you see the picture of the person with the war bridle on? So the last rope um, wrapped around the horse like a halter, dallied off to a saddle horse. Oh,
Not.
don't say who it was, but
I,
it's like
I think
the
we're
poor.
back. I think we're back to that's not a war bridle.
I have talked to some people that I really respect recently, and that is what it was called, but whatever, it doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
fair enough.
What the
I
last rope wrapped around the nose, and dallied off solid. They're like,
It's crazy.
all right, so there's whatever. I mean, whatever. I'm just thinking of it from the horse's perspective, and that thing does not release that well.
No, it doesn't loosen.
It doesn't, and the horse is just going to be there like, you are trying to hurt me, and that is what the person is doing. Now, maybe the person is thinking, well, I have to in order for you to come through so that your life can be better. I don't know. I don't know. Someone sent that to me. I was like, Gary. He's like, mm-mm. So I'm hoping. I asked him to come on the show today to talk to us about it, but he couldn't today. But I'd be curious because he has way more experience with all of it, taking all comers, handling the most disastrous behaviors, and that he has never done that. He doesn't ever recommend doing it. And in fact, kind of interestingly enough, he was referring to almost never using that. Now he's run a last rope through a halter before, so he had more drift, you know, to really to test some things. But in terms of always going through to the last rope tucked under, looped over itself over the horse's nose. Oh, you loop it over loose. Okay, that's one thing, you know. But anyway, that was a crazy picture. Fucking dallied off solid. Like, you don't even have. And on a nylon rope, not even a poly. Because, of course, you got the one hand, like the poly slides, the nylon is soft.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, side note, that was wild to see. I didn't know if you had seen it.
I haven't.
Yeah, I'll have to send it to you. It's like, just from the horse's perspective, I guess that's all I'm thinking of. Like, from the horse's perspective, there's so many times when I think about it more and more all the time, that the horse is just like, if Ray was right, if Ray Hunt was actually right about the fact that horses are either trying to do what you want them to do or do what they have to do to survive, then as we're out there with our horse or sitting on our horse, just let's remember that the horse is down there going, they're trying to figure their shit out. Be like, what should I do? So yes, external forces, depending on the horse, might worry them more or less. And then what we're doing as they're trying to figure out what we have in mind either it's helpful or not helpful. I saw another reel of somebody that had their a horse tied down, like just ridiculous. It was a beautiful dressage horse, and the head was just, I don't know, it had like a running martingale slash. It was tied up. It was, and the horse is just, trying to go around in the most bizarre fashion, but the horse is just like, oh, okay, I'm whatever. I'm trying, like they're like trying to figure it out, and this was like, oh, the person should never do that, which is true. But how many times have we seen, and my own horses too, like where they're just going, okay, this doesn't suit me at all, but I'm gonna do it how you want me to do it.
Yeah.
Less extreme, but of course, but the same sentiment. Like, well, that makes sense to me, but I'm gonna do it anyway.
Yeah. So much, so much of that on the less extreme version that we might run ourselves up against, where we're trying to do our best and do things that does suit the horse, just knowing what you're looking for and where to release to just help the horse to find it, you know.
It's something so simple as I've done a million one rein stops, and the weight maybe wasn't like leaning on the inside foot, but maybe it wasn't just automatically turning the horse loose on the inside and rolling them to the outside.
Or I'm thinking just doing your groundwork, be it that or united circle, missing spots where it is united, where it does happen, and just continuing on doing, I'm going to do my groundwork, I'm going to keep going here and wait for it. And by about circle number 75, the horse is going, I have no clue why we are doing this or what you want. This is all just one big.
Do you remember that horse in Florida? That sweet horse, and he had that, you guys, sweet, like, kind of, well, we won't even describe the horse. Eyes like this, and the lady was so nice, and they obviously loved each other, and she was doing like 1,000 circles, and the horse is just like, I don't really know what I'm doing here because I feel like I've done it already, but I'm gonna keep doing it because I like this lady. I don't know if she knows what she's doing, but it's fine. It was so sweet. It was like the dream, that your horse, because how many times must they think that of us? Especially when we get down to the flying chain.
Yeah, even though we don't want him to, and we.
Corey knows exactly the one we're talking about. Corey's like, it was the sweetest thing because she'd done like 1,000 circles and the horse did it exactly right, like basically every time. Oh my gosh, it was so sweet. So sweet. But the person wasn't being a turd about it either.
Mm-hmm.
I interrupted you. What were you going to say?
Well,
you're not going to remember.
Well,
sorry.
I was going to say anything real dramatic. It's just that, when the horse nails it, just do something else. Be like, hey, that's what I wanted. I'm not going to ask you to keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. No.
Yeah, I was last night with Prim. I wanted to make sure that she's pretty touchy about me tapping the stirrups with my flag while she was going. Like she'd either, super, like not rhythmic, like and I really thought to myself, okay, are we coming and going, as Gary would say? Or am I fixated on this getting, to be super, super good? Because when it's better, move along. But we've had that discussion a million times. How much better is better before we move along?
Mm-hmm.
Don't you wish sometimes that you could just turn up your perceptive dial, just like you do the heater? Like, click, click, click. Oh, well. We should have an easier hobby. Business. No, just kidding.
It is one of the more complex. I don't know. There are plenty of complex things out there, but
Yep. Well, we're way, 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 way over because I was so late getting here. But now I know that I need to turn my phone sideways before I turn on the live. And when I'm there,
that's what
Michael,
I don't know why it makes me crooked.
I don't know either. But you know, when we do the show at your place, so not next week, which is a Valentine's show, but the week after that, I think we're gonna have to do it from your house, and we'll just do a half hour.
Yeah.
We'll just do a half hour show, but we'll do it from like up at your parents. Something like that. Knitting Insider. I was just thinking about that.
What's that?
Knitting. Oh, Corey says knitting insider. Yeah, knitting. And what would be the hobby? Knitting.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
Rather than horsemanship insider. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of horsemanship insider, okay, so you guys, the marshmallow videos. And Michael, you're gonna like it because it basically is a half circle exercise. And there's definitely more to talk about. So, and talk about an extreme body style. So that should be tomorrow or the next day. And yeah, I guess that's it. So we'll see you guys all next Thursday morning at 6:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
8:30 Central.
Have a good week, everybody. Bye.